everybody, quick little heads up. We had some technical issues while recording this Session 0 and Incarnate Episode 1, so things might sound a little weird. I promise the editing skills and recording will get better. We're all learning the new tech, and quickly realized we needed new microphones, so please be patient with us. And with that, let's get on with the show.
All right, welcome everybody to Dice and Consequences, and that was as smooth a segue as I think that we can get into this. Welcome everybody back and everybody to... Is this the first episode? I'm not sure what this is, but this is Session 0. So I am your humble dungeon master, Jake Geedy, and joined at the table here, we're going through Discord this time, so why don't we start at the top? So Chris, why don't you tell everybody your name and a little bit about you?
Hi, my name's Chris, and I just happened to jump in here. All right, pass it over to Casey.
we found Chris on the side of the road, and he was doing something about paint, and I don't know what was it, Chris?
Yeah, they found me in a bush. My clothes were made out of only specifically Sherwin-Williams plastic bags. It was a terrible time.
Oh, I see. And joined, of course, bringing Chris to the table, who found him in the bush. That's Kirsty Hamilton. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? So yeah, I'm Kirsty, and I'm exceptionally boring.
Okay, well that's a glowing review. Come on,
don't say that.
Yeah, like that's a little bit rude to all of us now, because now everybody thinks we hang out with boring people.
If you're saying that, then I'm exceptionally dumb.
Well,
that firsthand, Kirsty.
Well, Chris, let's not undersell things here.
Oh God!
Oh boy.
Anyway, and then, okay, so there's Kirsty, and then, of course, Seth Baldwin.
Hey everybody. Well, I am exceptionally average.
Exceptionally average. God, you guys are the worst at intros.
That's awful. Exceptionally boring. You know, I didn't think about it until we kind of like jumped into this.
I mean, I didn't. Well, yeah. Well, hey, you guys didn't want to see it coming, so I just started,
Rip the Band-Aid.
Rip the Band-Aid off, exactly. And then, of course, we got Austin down there at the bottom. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm great. I'm exceptionally interesting. I don't know who these people are.
Exactly. As said by your Discord name here right now, three kobolds and a trench coat right there.
That's right.
Beautiful.
So everybody joining us here, what is Dice and Consequences? Well, Dice and Consequences is yet another D&D podcast here. We are a couple of friends doing two concurrent campaigns right now. Is that right? Is it concurrent or co-current?
Concurrent.
Perpendicular.
Yes, perpendicular campaigns.
They have nothing to do with each other.
Yes. Completely. Well, no, wait. Parallel is that way.
No, they're perpendicular campaigns, these.
Okay, yes. They're going to smash right into each other halfway through, and everyone's going to be super confused.
I think both of us being in there is a smashing right.
I see. That's what it is. So we're
now they're running different ways from each other.
I see. So we're the dimension altering event. Then that's what it is. I see. That's us. Anyway, so Dice and Consequences, like I said, is yet another D&D podcast with a bunch of us friends doing two concurrent campaigns here. We have Austin, who is the DM of the second campaign. Austin, you want to tell everybody real quick just what that campaign is?
We're doing a Strahd campaign, and I'm DMing it, and you guys are there. Mostly there.
Eric's there too.
Yes, and Eric is there. You'll hear from him in one of our later episodes. But this one is my campaign, and this is what we're calling for, I guess, lack of a better term, because it's based off of this custom rule set from the community here, and I'm trying to remember who exactly made this thing. If one of you guys wants to pull it up and tell me real quick while I stall for time. And it's called Incarnate, Last of the Lacers. So we put a poll in our little Discord thing when we started wanting to do this, and I was pushing for space, but everybody wanted Avatar, because we were all watching Avatar: The Last Airbender at the time. So we have now successfully completed that, or at least I've completed most of the campaign for that, and we'll be going along here. Now, everybody's had a couple of sessions beforehand with their own characters' backstories, which will come into play later on, but I figured we'd do this off camera and everything, so
Real quick.
Yes, go ahead.
Incarnate, The Last of the Lacers is by Alex Tanner.
Oh, thank you. Alex Tanner. There we go.
With a character sheet by...
Darker Dungeons. Bless you, Darker Dungeons on Reddit.
It does come with a specific character sheet with the book on DM's Guild. We're just going to plug everybody.
Yeah.
It's created by Gilherm Pentoya.
Johan Pentoya. Okay, great. So there you go. But we're using Roll20 for the majority of our things here, and so with it being Roll20, we're using the Darker Dungeons character sheet because it's the one we're most familiar with. Also, it has some cool little doodads and stuff that we can use to make our rolls a little bit easier. So enough about that stuff. So welcome to the world here, guys. So we're going to go ahead and take just kind of like an overview of the world, and you guys all should have your maps because you're good students, you're good noodles. So the name of the world is Valen. So welcome to Valen, everybody, and we're going to drop in some lore in this episode 0 run. But first, before we jump immediately into the world here, why don't we talk a little bit about our characters and a bit about what people can expect from this podcast or this campaign here. So why don't we start with Austin, with Usan?
Yeah. How old are we?
How old? I'm 26. How old are you?
Austin, how old are you?
I don't know.
I was like, ugh.
I've already made this mistake before.
You're not going to make it again.
You're not going to make it a second time. Well, see, that's why I figured we'd go with you first, so that way we can kind of like... we can gauge where you're at and just see how far off you are. See, in our home campaign, we were playing a bunch of high schoolers, and Austin decided that he was going to play Sir Reynard, the valiant 25-year-old Elkshaw Academy student. And
I'm going to say we're 17.
Yeah, you're 17.
That sounds right.
As you wish, I'm 18.
Yeah, so you guys... Oh, no, I'm 30. Anyway, so they're all 18, basically 18-year-olds, because you're all at right about the age of majority for your specific group here. So we're going to go ahead and start with Usan. So tell us a bit about Usan. What's going on there, Austin?
Where is the, on our map, where is the air temple that I was served at?
Oh, right. So the temple here is in the Foros mountain range, which is on the peninsula there between the Airwalker Pass, basically. It's the little peninsula right there. So
that long stretch of land there that goes into the sea.
Yeah. The part where it gets skinny and then fat again.
Yeah, that's the Airwalker
the temple
Pass.
Was responsible for going out and protecting some amount of land. Did they just go everywhere?
So basically, he is part of the what are they? The air, not air nomads, but that's Nick. They are.
Dang it, Nick.
Air people. We'll just call them air people right now because I can't remember exactly what they're called.
But they were a defender of all sorts of folks.
Yeah.
They trained martially in order to protect people that can't defend themselves. That's where Usan comes from. He's 18, just coming of age.
Usan had some stuff happen in his past there, right?
Right.
Some dark things, some dangerous things.
Dark things? What do you mean? He's a bright young boy. He's got white hair. That's totally normal white hair.
Yes, totally normal white hair. But so Usan grew up in one of the temples there. A bit about the air folk here.
The air monks.
The air monks, yes, the air monks. There's two sects of their people, basically. There are the people who live in like the monasteries and the temples who are like the monks and things like that. And then there are also just like the common folk people. But again, they don't, in our version, they don't have many major cities. They do have like villages and some permanent settlements and stuff like that. But for the most part, they are spread out among the continents. They don't really have a homeland specifically. They have like places that are special and that are spiritual to them or that are like, culturally significant, like the temples and Airwalker Pass and a couple of the other places that are important to them, but they are mostly integrated into the societies of the other, I guess, races. But they do have their own distinct cultural identity, I should say, but they basically still blend in wherever they go. And that's what allows them to have their balance and their stuff, but they scatter to the wind, ergo the air people. Or air monks, so stuff like that. So that's what's going on in there. And And then we move north and west up to the main continent there of Karen, Cairn, not Kar. You understand. It does have a I want to see your manager haircut, though. Anyway, so the continent of Karen, we move over to Lim.
Lim is a 19-year-old. That's what I describe him as I'd say he's more of like a slum rat, if anything. Tried to change his ways in his younger years, but kind of fell in some hard times, not to give too much away.
So
yeah, we don't want too much happening right now.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Little taste.
Just give us a little taste here. So I guess what did Lim like to do?
More or less just kind of roam around the city, cause a little bit of trouble. It wasn't not a bad person, but more or less kind of just doesn't like to be bored for too long. Kind of gets into his own little things.
I see. And then what did Usan like to do? I didn't ask you about that.
Well, most monks were really, all about like putting their emotions away, making sure that they're totally disciplined and whatnot. So Usan never really got to do too much other than work on his studies and practicing his martial arts.
I see. Yeah, I'm assuming he was a bit of a troublemaker too, as that would pretty much go against the grain of much of what the monks taught.
That's right.
And now we'll go ahead and head to our most northern point, and that little island right below the northern pole there. We come to the twins of Asuna and Kyaru. Guys, why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourselves?
Yeah, so they're twins, polar opposites, kind of rolled with that.
We're a water and fire lacer set of twins. Our families, during like a big nomadic time when people were changing up traditions and leaving because of natural disasters, the like polar clan people, which were now the water clan, because they were trying to distance themselves from the old ways, and the firefolk people met on this island that's in between their nations, and that's how our family came together.
And we would probably be like the first generation of like intermixing, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are like the first 1.5 generation.
Yeah.
Of this, like, because your parents were relatively young when they came to the island, but they were both born.
They were pretty much like kids when they came over.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a perfect family life. Honestly, no complaints.
It's pretty great. Not gonna lie, everyone's like real supportive and blending cultures fairly well. And we're actually kind of like known as like the miracle twins, because no one's ever had fire and water lacers born at the same time. Like that's never been a thing as far as everybody knows.
Mm-hmm. But both your mother and father were both lacers in their own rights.
Our mother was a water lacer and our father was a fire lacer.
Right.
And so them combined ended up having twins for one of each.
Yep. And, pretty great family life. Had grandparents that helped train us as well. Made friends in school. Honestly, it was a perfect childhood.
We're still sisters and, we have our arguments and everything. But yeah, I feel like Kyaru, my character, often chases her sister around, making sure that she's staying out of trouble.
Asuna kind of pushes to have action. We don't dilly-dally.
Exactly.
So we're going to leave that there with you guys before we give away too much. What they're talking about is the Mount Yoko disaster. And so what happened was about close to 100 years ago now, Mount Yoko, which is the main volcano in the northern part of the Fire Islands, exploded and caused earthquakes, caused ash rain, lava flows, destroyed much of the agriculture, which is what it really was there because of the volcanic soil, made everything very, fertile. It burned down towns and basically forced people to either go back into the the heart or like the main island of the chain or venture out. And so many of them went north and they reached the island of did you guys write the island name down?
Kairiku.
Kariku, that's right. And so it's this. So it was how the cultures blended was the polar tribes used this as like kind of like a whaling station, basically. Like this was a last port before the open sea, essentially, and a lot of the trade came in through there because up until very recently, people outside of the tribe were not allowed into the actual polar region, the northern continent or the southern continent to be exact. And neither people knew that the other two existed on the island until they met one day in the middle. And luckily, instead of fighting each other, they decided, hey, we're both having a rough go at it. We might as well work together. And now you have on this island, it's kind of a more interesting cultural melting pot. There are a lot of firefolk designs mixed with the architecture of the polar clan or the water kin now. And that's mostly because it's in the polar region, so it is cold, so you can make ice houses and things like that, but it also is kind of juxtaposed with traditional shingled roofing and things like that from the firefolk. So very interesting thing there. So we're going to go ahead and just give a quick cultural overview here for you guys. So do you guys have any questions? We want to try to get some lore out while we can.
Are you asking the audience?
I'm asking you guys. Yes, I'm asking the audience who I can't respond to.
Excuse me, listeners.
That is currently listening to me right now.
Okay. Well, I mean, do we know, as of now, does the world know who the Incarnate is?
No. Yes. So that's a very good question. So the Incarnate is essentially like the Avatar. The Incarnate is the one person who is able to not just control and tame, but again bring balance and stuff to all of the elements. Essentially, they are an extremely powerful being, and it doesn't go in a cycle or any kind of thing like that. So it's not like, okay, once the firefolk have had the Avatar, the Incarnate, once they die, it goes to the earth, and then it goes to the water, and then it goes to the air. It doesn't work like that.
Seems terribly unbalanced.
Yeah, yes, and that's what kind of makes it so difficult for people to understand who the Incarnate is, because there have probably been Incarnates that have been born that never knew they were the Incarnate because they only ever used whatever culture they were born into. And so that's why it's very hard to find the Incarnate. Now, each race, of course, has their own reverence for the Incarnate themselves. And it is legend that the Incarnate only appears when the world is in danger. So the last 200 years, there's not been an Incarnate that anyone knows of. Now, the disciples, they continually go to every time they hear like the possibility that there could be something or something interesting or something new has happened that could be signs of the Incarnate, they are always there immediately trying to test and try to find them to make sure that they are the Incarnate. And
now, I think it's really important to mention that Incarnate, the Last of the Lacers, the document that we're basing a lot of this stuff off of, we're not necessarily following it exactly.
No.
We are, like I said, it's based off of, because it does follow the Avatar, The Last Airbender, Nickelodeon show and comics and all that fairly closely, where in the original document, it does talk about how it follows the cycle of the elements and all that stuff. So just as a preface, we're kind of, changing it a little bit and making it our own.
Yeah. And so the disciples are always going around to try to find the Incarnate, and they have been unsuccessful for the last 200 years, essentially. The last Incarnate was from the Earthkin, and he was the name of Boku. And he was the last Incarnate. He was very strong and was actually the one who defeated the Phoenix King when they had invaded the Earthkin. And this was, again, 200-something years ago. But Boku Bay is named after him because he grew up in a port city off of the big bay there near Airwalker's Pass. But again, he passed away at the ripe old age of 120. And there has not been an Incarnate since.
But we don't know who it is currently.
No, nobody knows who it is.
Or which element they'll represent.
Yes, or if they even exist anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How long has it been since the last one?
About 200 years.
Oh, it's been 200
It's
years
been
since
200
the
years
last
since then, yeah.
one. Okay.
So, like, the Phoenix King's invasion of the Earthkin was some, like, 300 or so years ago. And, you know, the Incarnate lived about 100 years past that.
Okay. So it's been about 200 years since the last one died.
Yes.
Okay. Another thing I was wondering is what's kind of like the state of the political world right now? Like, are things kind of cool?
Yeah, actually, it's an incredible time of peace. The longest term of peace that there has been in recorded history. There's always been at least. What was that, Austin?
No.
Oh, I was like, there's always been some sort of like internal political strife somewhere at some point. But even that, there's been just kind of an era of good feeling essentially between all the folk, and there haven't been any big political upheavals. There haven't been any particularly dangerous natural disaster events besides, Mount Yoko. And I guess I should say there was something, but none of you know about it yet, and it's not commonplace knowledge of what happened.
Bad feeling. Something bad happened.
Yeah. Something bad definitely did happen, but it's not common knowledge because of just where it happened and the ability to keep it all a secret, or as much of a secret as possible. But yeah, it's surprisingly peaceful. Intercontinental trade is booming. Nothing particularly bad, I guess. I'm sorry, I didn't know if you guys were looking for something like, oh, everything's changed. It's been 20 years since, Walrus Chan killed...
Also, Phoenix King.
Who killed Walrus?
Wondering if Nickelodeon's going to kick down your door.
Yeah, no, yes, exactly.
What do you mean? It's going to be Games Workshop, the Phoenix King of the High Elves.
Yes, exactly.
That's obviously what he's referencing.
Oh,
Yes,
for sure.
absolutely. Yeah, because elves exist here. No, but it has been a pretty technologically booming kind of era. If we were to put this into perspective here,
The Legend of Korra than anything.
So then if we're gonna place those kind of bookmarks there between Last Airbender,
They're gonna be those
and
bookmarks.
Korra, we're gonna put it a little bit past there. So like radio exists. Okay, we're able to do shortwave and longwave radio, basically. The Earthkin have it, but it's mostly used still for communicating with ships that are at sea. But even then, it can't reach them at certain parts of the ocean, so there are dead zones here. The Earthkin have begun to make radio like a sort of entertainment and information form, but again, it is consumer grade radios and stuff like that are like very rare, very, very rare. They're almost non-existent. And there is electricity, but it's not very reliable. And again, not every continent has these things in as bulk. Each of them have sort of kind of specialized in their own things based on their ways. Like the Firefolk have very much invested in their navy and like navigation and things like that because they're an island chain, so they have to obviously move through their straits quite often. And so that would be useful for them. The Air Monks, they have more focused on not judicial stuff, but like more egalitarian measures and I guess equality in both spirit and in physical form, I guess. And they've kind of rejected some of the more radical spirit world kind of thought processes that basically like everything has a spirit and that spirit is only ever this. And so if you're born this way, you will always be this way. And they've rejected things like that. The Earthkin, because they are so far spread out and they are in the largest continent, they have really put it in transportation and means of communication. They're the ones that have most of the radio.
Like regularly circulating newspapers and stuff like that.
Yes, well, they're even more like town criers, really, because people can read and stuff like that, and they have their own language, but like the printing press is invented, but it's not widespread very much, right? They do have trams and like big trains and stuff that run from some cities to, more provincial areas. They do have radio and stuff so they can communicate between places. And then the polar tribes, no one really knows what they're really good at. Because,
the polar tribes know what they're good at?
Yes.
Exist in the cold, that's what you're good at.
Yeah, well, so the polar tribe knows. Yes, they do know. But they've been so isolated from... Precious few people have seen the Jewel of the North, which is their main city there. Very few people outside of the clan have set foot in the city, let alone on the northern continent at all. At least that they know. They fiercely patrol their waters. And they're coming out of a isolationist phase is what's happening right now. And many of the people who were on the island were many of the exiles or people who are like, hey, we understand that the world is now a global place and we need to be a part of it. So
yeah, they're the ones who are like breaking from tradition.
Exactly.
And we're like, we don't have a place here. Let's leave.
Yeah, kind of like that. Things like that. So that's basically what the other races are. As for governmental systems, if you're looking at that, the Earthkin are a monarchy. The Firefolk are also a monarchy, but they're like a constitutional monarchy, more like it. So they are proto-democratic.
A different type of democratic.
Yeah. So they have. So they have like a legislature, and the king is like a rubber stamp on that, but the king still does wield enormous power. Like, there is still a legislature, but the Magna Carta hasn't been signed.
And the Fire Kingdom, they call it the Magna Carta.
Yeah, the Magna Carta, exactly. The Magna Carta, exactly.
All right, I'll see you guys later on that.
Yeah, and then there's
I've said my piece.
It's like, all right, and that's
it.
That's the high point of my comedy. I'll see myself out. So there's that, and then the Water Clans are like a clan confederation, basically, where they do have a dual kingship or a chieftain, and all of them swear fealty to the South and to the North, and they make one united confederated government. And the air people, they're basically, I mean, they're monastic in many cases, or at least one half of them is like
we had
monastic.
Masters and such, elders.
Yeah, yeah, and so they're very like ancestral based, and to some degree, them as a whole are like that entire race is, but seeing as they don't really have a homeland necessarily, they basically fall under whatever land they land on. They follow those specific rule sets. Now, their cities that they do have are, appointed mayors, but it's usually a town elder kind of thing like that. They're not too fussed about their government. They're just worried about peace and tranquility, essentially. The Incarnate, again, hasn't been seen for so long, but each of you has a different view of the world, and as you all have been leaving your areas or have been forced out of your areas or whatever brings you to the table, there is a general feeling that this time of peace is short.
That's ominous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing for you guys was when you were in your rites of passage, there were many things in there that shouldn't have been there. And so just the fact that migratory patterns are changing and things are showing up in places that they shouldn't be showing up in. The fact
so you're not talking like politically, you're talking like...
I'm talking about just in general.
Just like naturally.
Yeah, well, I mean, Chris got a pretty good, Lim got a pretty good idea of what, politically is on the horizon.
It's not good.
Yeah, Usan, I was like, Usan got a pretty good idea of what's coming spiritually, and you guys got one from more naturally what's happening. Yeah. I mean, because here's the thing, like, dormant volcanoes don't normally just explode. They do. I don't think they just do.
That's how they get you. How else would they sneak up on you?
Yeah, exactly. It's like nobody paid their volcano insurance anymore.
This volcano's a level 16 rogue.
Yeah, exactly.
It waited so long to get its sneak attack bonus and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was just biding its time. Mountains don't just explode. things don't just start all of a sudden changing their migratory patterns out of nowhere without any kind of without any rhyme or reason. The spirits don't go gallivanting about much in the world when they don't have to. Yeah, so the general feeling is that something isn't right. But then again, that also comes with such a long period of peace. This is an extended period of peace. There's all that.
At some point.
Yeah, so it has to end at some point, right? Because nothing good can ever last, right? Except for this podcast. Anyway. So we'll go ahead and wrap up here. I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page and kind of get what's going on here. And I think these session zeros are very important. And I hope this was entertaining to listen to. It was mostly just me talking about, things that nobody's experienced yet. But I expect us to go all over the world. I expect us to hit the very north, the very south, the very west, the very east. You name it. I expect us to eventually go there or go around those areas. Again, in my games, I like to give the players a story, but I also like to give them agency. So those of you listening, there may be times when, there's something that seems to be incredibly pressing, but we're going to spend 30 minutes of our precious time or 3 days in game trying to lock a door by using another door. So these things always happen.
I mean, honestly, my character might try to do that.
Please, just fucking close the door. You don't need to rip it off the hinge.
Just use the lock that's already there.
Yeah.
Go grab that other door. If we hit this door hard enough, it'll lock it in place.
It'll lock it in
For
place,
the
exactly.
listeners, that will be coming up.
That will be coming up very soon. You'll understand that inside joke later. But I hope you guys are interested, and I hope you will enjoy what's coming up next. There's going to be a lot that we're going to get hit with. A lot of characters are going to come in. I'm going to have to juggle all of these names and all of these places. It's going to be a real fun time.
Especially the correct ones for the Incarnate supplemental stuff, so that we don't get sued by Nickelodeon.
Especially.
Right.
We have Viacom Senpai, please. Please don't.
I'm trying to have a guy with a big V mask throw a sack over my head and drag me out of my house.
There you go. Well, in your case,
please don't come after us. I know that you guys created these characters that we're basing it off of us, but please break.
Yeah.
Please be nice.
Well, hey, I mean,
as a labor of love instead.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, Chris, in your case, instead of it just being a bag, it'll probably be a Sherwin-Williams bag, and they'll drag you into a stockroom and go, sort these.
Match all of these things.
No, you can't do this to me.
Match Victory Red and Cherry Red.
I'm just a small boy. Don't do this.
Mwah, mwah. Anyway, so that's all fun and games, and that's just kind of the stuff we can expect to come into this game. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, this is Dice and Consequences. We'll be back with episode 1 of Incarnate. Look for episode 1 of Strahd coming up soon as well. And hope you guys enjoy this ride and join us with it. Join us on this thing. Man, I'm in radio. I talk for a living.
You do this professionally.
This is my profession. This is my chosen profession.
Not gonna lie, I thought you were gonna say we'll be back after these messages. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, we'll be back after these messages. That's a lot of my job, actually. But I can never wrap anything up. I take 20 extra minutes to wrap everything up.
So
that's our family.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
true. Yeah. That is also very true. But anyway, thank you guys again for tuning in. Austin, Chris, Kirsty, Savvy, thank you for joining me. We'll be back with episode 1 very soon, so stay tuned. This is Dice and Consequences. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
See you later.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Dice and Consequences, featuring Jake Geedy, Austin Woodyard, Kirsty Hamilton, Chris Ward, and myself, Savannah Baldwin. We have a lot more content coming your way, so stay tuned. Next in lineup is the formal introduction of our characters, then episode 1 of the Incarnate campaign, and after that is the first episode of The Legend of Strahd, DM'd by Austin and featuring familiar voices from this session with a new voice by the name of Eric Hamilton. Theme song and outro is called Firestone by Seth Baldwin, my brother and talented musician. You can check out his work on Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your music. I know you can find it. You're pretty resourceful. Until next time, remember to never roll unless prompted because the dice have consequences.
All right, listen here, assholes. So I've been coming up with some theme music for the podcast. Do you guys want to hear it?
Yeah.
These are the adventures of these friends going around the world. Is that copyrighted? Can I not use that?
I don't think you can use that now.
Ah, damn. Well, okay. Well, Granddad Nintendo's gonna come kick my ass then. Okay.
Nintendo is very upset about their copyright laws.
They are. Yeah.
Nintendo OG someone.
Oh God, we don't need to get into copyright law as we're about to do this.